Hello reading type people, I'm here today with Robert Muchamore, author of the Cherub series.
Woohoo!
I might have to do that again.
The thing about Cherub is I've now been writing it for 10 years and as much as I love it and as much as I love all the characters and stuff, I am kind of just a little tiny bit sick of it because I've just written so many books about the same thing. So I think we're probably coming to the end of Cherub. Maybe I would come back to it in a few years' time or something like that. But for now, I think books 16 and 17 will probably be the last two before I take a break.
Although how many times have you said that before?
Yeah, I must admit I'm a bit of a cynic because I have said this before and then my publisher says, you know, Cherub's a very successful series, we'll pay you lots of money if you write more. And I hold up to my artistic integrity and say, yes, I'll write more.
Do you ever have to go back to your kind of first few books because you've just forgotten entirely what's happened?
It's really embarrassing and I've forgotten so much stuff about Cherub that I'm really scared that in one of the books I'm going to make some massive calamitous mistake. And it's particularly hard with fans because I get new readers all the time. And the new readers, they turn around and say, you know, oh, I read this book 3 weeks ago and this and this happens. And like, I can't even remember who the characters are and stuff like that now. I get really mixed up. So yeah, it's tough that, you know, I wrote a book 10 years ago and you're speaking to a kid who sort of read it a week ago.
How's the reaction been to the new series, to Rock War?
Rock War's been really cool in that people have reacted really well to it. And I think the toughest part is actually getting fans who are sort of into the spy and the thriller thing to read something that's just a little bit different. But everyone who's read it seems to really like it.
I guess it's a kind of slightly more niche genre, kind of writing about bands.
I guess so. I mean, I just think of it as a kind of family genre and, you know, kind of it's about the kids and the families. And I always think it's kind of the same as Cherub in a way, because Cherub's a kind of wish fulfillment thing where you read Cherub and it's about, you know, I could be a spy, this could be for real. And Rock War is exactly the same, but except instead of becoming a spy, you get to become a rock star.
I think one of the things I really loved about reading Rock War was that you had Summer as a main character. How did you find writing kind of main female characters for once? I
mean, I have done it in the Cherub books. I've had books where Lauren is to the fore and stuff like that, but Summer was just a great character to write. The reason I started on her was I just read this article in the news that there's something like 1 million children in this country who actually have a caring role where they care for an adult or a grandparent or a younger sibling who's handicapped or something like that. And I just thought it was fascinating to actually have a kid who had a caring role in one of the books.
So will you, moving off Cherub, just move into Rock War and have 12 books there?
I think Rock War's going to be a shorter series than Cherub just because unlike with Cherub where you can send them off to a different part of the world and start on a completely different mission, with Rock War you're pretty much set on the idea of bands. They either succeed or they fail. They might do a bit of a comeback, something might go on, but I don't think there's the kind of degree of stories that there are in Cherub. I think probably 4, maybe 5 books at the most, I would have thought.
Have you got any other kind of story ideas that you'd love to write?
There's always things that I'd really like to write. One of the things I'm actually playing around with at the moment, I quite like the idea of writing a thriller for adults because I think my books would probably actually work quite well as adult thrillers, and it's something I'm quite interested in doing at the moment. I haven't signed any contracts, haven't spoken to any publishers, but I am toying with the idea of writing a book for adults.
Moving into James Patterson's territory.
Yeah, I can go into competition with James and get my series of writing associates on board and have a whole team churning out 12 books a year like he does.
You've said in interviews before that you initially started writing Cherub with the idea that Jared would read it. The idea of finding something for him to read. Does he still read them?
No, Jared has never read any of my books. Jared's quite funny because he's 29 now, but when Cherub first came out he was about 19 and he just left home and he got his first girlfriend and he was going clubbing every night and basically wasn't remotely interested in reading a book written by his uncle.
So you managed to get out about 2 books a year. Is that a strict writing schedule?
Yeah, it used to be. I mean, actually, funnily enough, now I've just been slowing down a little bit over the last year or so, and I think next year, for the first time, I've actually only got 1 book out, and that will be the second in the Rock War series. So I am actually just slowing down a bit, and I think part of the reason for that is when you've got a big back catalogue of books, you actually don't need to be quite as prolific because your fans tend to read the newer books. But of course, if I'm just dropping down to doing 1 kids book a year, that's one of the things that's opened up the possibility of me writing for adults as well.
Do you think your books have got more and more dangerous as they've gone on?
I guess in terms of, in terms of the stories in the Cherub books are quite mixed. in that some stories, I started off very low key and I deliberately wanted to make the first book, The Recruit, about a very mundane story about one boy, and the mission at the end of the book is just about him in this muddy field, and everything's very, very low key. But inevitably, as you write more books, there's always this thought, well, you know, maybe I can do a bigger story, and like by the time you get to the 5th Cherub book, you've got this sort of big story about a great religious thingamajig in the Australian outback, and it all gets blown up at the end and stuff like that. So even now though, I try and mix it. So the book that's coming out in August of this year, Lone Wolf, is actually again quite a low-key story, just about 1 or 2 kids and just about their lives and their stories. So I really like to mix the over-the-top stories with the normal stuff.
Yeah, differing slightly from the kind of international terrorist.
Yeah, because it just, you know, it's nice to mix it up.
Do you ever feel there are topics that you can't write on, or that you're worried about writing on because of political correctness?
Political correctness is tricky. My publisher actually stopped me. I wanted to do a book about the sort of post-peace process Northern Ireland and how sort of terrorism and organised gangs still go on there. And they didn't want me to do Northern Ireland as a subject. I don't really know why. They were just very sensitive about it, and they sort of stopped me from doing that one. And anything explicitly sexual, one of the most difficult things about writing People's Republic, which is about human trafficking and abuse of young girls and stuff like that, was to do it in such a way that you could sort of say what was going on without actually depicting anything too sexually explicit in what is actually a children's book. And that can be quite a difficult thing to do.
So that's probably about all we have time for. Thank you so much, Rob, for joining me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.